Hey, hi, how's it going? If you've been here before and you're back for more, I appreciate you to my very core. But if you're new here, welcome. My name is Becca, and I tell your own personal paranormal experiences through short stories. If you have a personal paranormal experience that you'd like me to share and be featured on this channel, make sure to message me on Instagram. The link is in the bio. Without further ado, ba-doo, boo, boo, here is today's story. Stephanie grew up and spent most of her childhood in Hannibal, Missouri. When she was 8 years old, however, herself, her mom, her stepdad, her younger sister Anna, her two older brothers, Alex, who was 12, and Austin, who was 9, all packed up their stuff and moved from Hannibal to Quincy, Illinois. Now, it wasn't a very big move, as Hannibal and Quincy are literally 30 minutes apart, but it was super inconvenient to Stephanie, Alex, and Austin as they all had to transfer schools. So no one was really thrilled with the move. They were all pretty bummed out that they had to make new friends, and no one really wants to be that new kid in any school. But they knew that they didn't really have a choice, as Stephanie's mom really wanted to be closer to her dad, so Stephanie's grandfather, as he was just getting older and she wanted to really be there for him. But the kids knew that they didn't really have an option at this point, as Stephanie's grandfather was getting older and Stephanie's mom wanted to be physically closer to him to help him if he needed any help. So they all packed up their stuff from Hannibal and they moved into Quincy. And where they moved into an apartment. And it's not like an apartment complex, it was literally two apartments stacked on top of an old antique shop. It was a one-bedroom single apartment, so Stephanie, Anna, Alex, and Austin all shared the one bedroom while Stephanie's mom and stepdad slept in the living room. Even though it was pretty squishy living conditions, it was extremely convenient for Stephanie's mom, as the other apartment that joined their apartment belonged to Stephanie's dad. And if they wanted to, they could open up the two doors that joined the apartments together and they could make it one big apartment. Now, the apartment wasn't modern by any means, but it had a lot of updated appliances. The radiator was semi updated, the fridge, the microwave, the stove. And the reason behind these updated appliances was because a fire had broken out in that apartment a few years before Stephanie moved in and sadly claimed the lives of a husband and wife. Now, this fire wasn't just a little toaster fire, this fire literally burnt both of the apartments and the antique shop to the ground. After rummaging through all of the rubble, the owners of the antique shop decided, you know what, let's rebuild and let's try again. So, after about a year of reconstruction, they built the antique shop and the two apartments above the antique shop to rent out to renters. A few months after rebuilding the apartments and the antique shop, they would rent it out to Stephanie's family and Stephanie's grandfather. Now, this is where it gets a little weird. One day, Stephanie and her brothers were at school when they got a phone call to come to the principal's office. They go to the principal's office, and Stephanie's mom's there to pick them up, and she's explaining to them there's been a fire. Stephanie's mom took Stephanie, Austin, and Alex back home, where after a fire investigation, they learned to discover that there were these old antique books that had been left on the radiator that no one had seen in the apartment complex that caused this fire in Stephanie's apartment. So Stephanie, Alex, and Austin were all questioned by the fire department as to how these books got on the radiator. But Austin, Alex, and Stephanie would swear up and down, we've never even seen these books, let alone place them on a radiator. After a few hours of interrogation from the fire department would rule this fire accidental. Thankfully, no one was injured in this fire, and the only damage that was done was smoke charring on the walls. So, with a little bit of elbow grease and some cleaning up, they were able to reestablish their apartment to pre fire conditions. A few months after the fire, Stephanie's mom was in the kitchen making supper, and she had a pot of boiling water on the stove when Anna needed some assistance. So Stephanie's mom turns away from the stove to go help Anna, Stephanie's younger sister, when all of a sudden the pot of boiling water comes flying off the stove and hits the wall. Thankfully, no one was in the path of this flying pot of boiling water, and no one was injured while it was being thrown. But it was this moment where Stephanie and Stephanie's family all agreed there was something paranormal happening within this apartment. After coming to this unanimous decision that there is something paranormal happening in this apartment and on this location, they decided to move out of the apartment come spring. After moving out of the apartment, however, Stephanie just was curious. Had anything weird happened in the apartment complex since she had left? So, after talking to some of her friends and doing a little bit of research, a couple years after Stephanie and her family moved out of that apartment complex, the entire building, antique shop, and both apartments burned to the ground. This was now the third fire that happened at this location. Thankfully, no lives were taken during this third fire. Excuse me. Thankfully, no lives were taken during this third fire, but Stephanie couldn't believe that not only had this place caught on fire once, it had caught on fire 3 times with a total of 2 fatalities over maybe 10 years. As to plans to rebuild for a second time, that's completely unknown. But Stephanie truly believes that the fires that erupted at this residence were solely based on paranormal activity. If you enjoyed today's recording, please leave a like or a comment. It's super rewarding. Wishing you nothing but a beautiful, blissful day. See you all next Friday. Bye bye.